We do.
Can you elaborate on that?
No.
Colonel, what time was the sighting near Longwood reported?
Just before noon.
Today?
Yes.
Colonel, do you still believe he's within this 8 to 10 mile perimeter that you've set up?
I have every reason to believe he is still within that perimeter, yes, sir.
Can you tell us why you have every reason to believe so?
We have had no sightings outside of that area. We have maintained as secure a perimeter as we possibly could, and then as recently as today, we have another reported sighting.
What are the current sides of your perimeter?
So it is bordered on the north by 926, on the east by 100 or Creek Road, on the south by Hillendale, and on the west by 52.
Colonel, how much bigger is this perimeter today than, say, last Friday?
It is larger. I couldn't tell you what the difference in size is, though, off the top of my head.
But this is the same as yesterday, right?
It is.
Colonel, is there any evidence that he has obtained a weapon? Anything new on that front?
I do not have any evidence to that effect, sir.
With the mushroom
I'm sorry, just
festival returning this weekend.
I'm sorry, just a minute, ma'am.
You mentioned the heat. We obviously know it had an effect on the canine officer. Is there any truth that the heat may have impacted thermal cameras at the prison that may have impeded or did not have been working at the time of Cavalcante's escape?
I couldn't speak to what effect anything would have on the cameras at the prison.
Can you talk about the effect on the? Can you talk about the effect on the law enforcement members on the ground when he's working through the day?
Oh, it makes it very challenging. Certainly all of you have been out in this weather, high temperatures, high humidity. They're wearing, uniforms with bullet-resistant vests, carrying a lot of equipment. It certainly adds to the challenge. With that said, I have not heard a single complaint, and I believe our people are up to the task. But
Can they get some break time, cool down time, water breaks?
if someone needs it, we absolutely get them some rest. But typically, what we've been doing is we're transporting fluids, food, those kinds of things to sustain them and keep them well hydrated out to their locations. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much. Two questions here. The Mushroom Festival returns for the 28th year in Kennett Square, which is a couple miles from East Marble, Longwood Gardens. The Mushroom Festival will return as planned. Our law enforcement, state agencies, federal agencies working very closely with local police to ensure that the escapee will not go towards the borough, because some people are planning not to attend this year due to the escaped convict, even though he has not been spotted there. So any thoughts on that?
Well, we're working very hard to capture the escaped convict and not allow him to go anywhere.
And then
But along with that, yes, we are well aware of that festival, and we are working with authorities, a number of authorities, law enforcement, emergency management, and so forth, to try and make sure that people feel very safe at that festival.
Yeah, and last question, in terms of how technology has changed from 1999 when Norman Johnson escaped, he was here for about 3 weeks in Chester County, again back in 1999. How has technology changed that is supporting your efforts to find him? Any thoughts on that?
As with your cell phone, it's changed dramatically in that amount of time. And so we take advantage of some of the latest state-of-the-art options that are available. And so when I've mentioned here before, we use a wide array of technology. We have a number of federal partners here with us that I've talked about previously. All of the assets of all of our agencies are brought to bear.
If Mud Creek Road is the eastern perimeter, how did you decide to remove Chatsford Elementary School from the search area?
We carved it out by putting additional officers around there. We cleared that property and then put officers around it so that we could carve that piece out.
The property at the school?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Mr. Colonel, as you know, another prisoner escaped earlier this year from Warren County.
Yes.
And was found some days later hiding out in the woods. So it seems like there's sort of a parallel to be drawn here between the two different types of manhunts. I wonder if you have any thoughts on how that situation compared to the search now, and if there are sort of differences between the two that explains the challenge that you're experiencing here.
Those are two of the more recent, this one and that are two of the more recent examples that we've had. There are similarities between any situation for a manhunt like this. So we try to learn something from each of those incidents that we handle, take from that how to run a smoother operation, Our partners, in many cases, are the same. In fact, some of the people that are here from the federal agencies are some of the same teams and resources. I was on the Warren County search as well. So there's some of the same resources. Again, all of us take lessons learned from it. We adapt those to the different circumstances we find. And, there are different challenges with every particular search. If we moved 20 miles down the road, there would perhaps be some different challenges than what we have here. We would adjust to those. Yes, sir.
There's been some speculation in the meeting that the heat-seeking technology, thermal imaging technology you use, is not working because it's so hot. Is that correct? Is all the technology you're using in that regard working the way it should because of the heat?
It is.
It is. There's no
Weather can certainly
detrimental effect.
have an impact on it, but it does not take that technology out of the game at all. At times, to use the example of thermal imaging, you can get some additional hot spots, rocks, different things like that can cause a hot spot, but it requires you to check a few more things, but it does not diminish our desire to use it.
Lieutenant, are you concerned that he is growing more desperate and yet more dangerous the time that he spends out in this weather and being hunted by you?
I believe he becomes more desperate. I believe he has always been very dangerous, and I've said that from the start. He's already murdered 2 people, one in Brazil and one here, in a very brutal manner. He's a very dangerous individual, and he remains so.
But
Can
now
you, is this the eighth confirmed sighting, or are there more? And can you kind of walk us through those 8? Because it seems like he's going back and forth, or are we out of order on the sighting numbers?
I don't have all of those other sightings here in front of me, but I can get that for you, and we can talk about it another time. But yes,
But 8 is correct?
Yes, sir, it would be 8.
What about homes? We know you've checked some homes before. Are you going back and rechecking homes? And if nobody's home, what are you doing? Are you checking with relatives just to make sure he's not in there?
We are checking homes. We're talking to neighbors if we don't find somebody at that home, and then each one is handled on an individual basis. We typically...
All right, we've been listening there to Pennsylvania law enforcement, specifically Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens, give an update on the still ongoing search for the convicted murderer who escaped from a Chester County prison last week. Thursday, right. Michael, officials expanded the scope in their hunt for Danelo Cavalcante, and the search radius is now equivalent to an 8 to 10 square mile area that he is still believed to be hiding out in. They are looking through trees, creeks, the sewer system, and they're still asking for the public's help to capture him.
And Lieutenant Colonel Bivens saying that there's been sightings as recent as today, but they still believe he's within that 8 to 10 square mile area. Right. People in the area urged to secure their homes and vehicles. The reward remains at $20,000 for information on Cavalcante. And we're going to take a quick break, but we've got a lot more news ahead, including the latest track of Hurricane Lee. You're streaming CBS News, always on.
If it's important to our nation,
I wonder how you think about where America is at this moment.
It's